I still remember the exact shade of orange the California sunset cast through my parents' dining room windows that Thanksgiving. It was the kind of light that should have made everything look warm and golden, but instead, it just illuminated the dust particles floating in the air like tiny witnesses to what was about to unfold. I was 33 years old, and I thought I'd survived the worst my family could throw at me. I was wrong. My name is Emily Carter, and this is the story of the day my mother publicly disowned me at Thanksgiving dinner and what happened after. If you're listening to this from your car, your kitchen, or wherever life has taken you today, I want you to know this story is real. Every word, every wound. Drop your city in the comments, let's see how far this story travels. Because what happened to me could happen to anyone. And maybe, just maybe, you'll see yourself in these words. Or someone you love, or someone you've hurt without knowing it. The thing about family cruelty is that it doesn't happen all at once. It's not a sudden storm. It's erosion. Water dripping on stone, year after year, until one day you look down and realize you're standing in a canyon of your own diminishment. And you can't remember when you started shrinking. My sister Rachel became a lawyer at 28. Corporate law, the kind that comes with a corner office in downtown San Francisco, designer suits, and a salary that made my parents' eyes literally glisten with pride. She looked the part too, all sleek dark hair and confident handshake, the golden child who'd done everything right. Stanford undergrad, Harvard law, married to another lawyer named Brad who had the personality of unsalted crackers but came from old money. They lived in Pacific Heights, had a Tesla, and sent Christmas cards with professional photography. I became an artist. Let me rephrase that. I tried to become an artist. I got my MFA in painting. Spent my 20s in a studio apartment in Oakland that smelled perpetually of turpentine and failed dreams. Worked 3 part-time jobs to keep the lights on while I poured my soul onto canvases that mostly ended up in storage. I had 2 gallery shows. Sold exactly 14 paintings in 8 years. The math wasn't mathing, as my nephew would say now with that cruel teenage smirk, but I believed in it. God, I believed in it so hard my bones ached with it. Every brush stroke felt like prayer. Every color choice felt like truth. I thought if I just worked hard enough, sacrificed enough, believed enough, the world would see what I was trying to say. That's the lie they tell you about passion, isn't it? That it's enough. That the universe rewards authentic pursuit. It doesn't. The universe is indifferent, and rent is due on the first. By the time I hit 30, I was drowning. Not dramatically, not all at once, but in that slow, suffocating way where you keep your head above water until one day you realize you've been treading in place for years and your legs are giving out. I'd sold my car first, then my nice camera, then, piece by piece, everything I owned that had any value. My furniture became minimalist not by choice but by necessity. I ate a lot of rice. I stopped going to doctors. I learned which coffee shops had the most generous free Wi-Fi and the most sympathetic baristas who didn't care if you nursed a single coffee for 4 hours. My family knew. Of course they knew. But knowing and caring are 2 different things. The invitations to family dinners became fewer. When I did show up, I was the ghost at the feast. Rachel would talk about her cases, her bonuses, her vacation to the Amalfi Coast. Brad would discuss his portfolio. My brother Michael, who'd married Jennifer, a dental hygienist with opinions about everything, would talk about their son Tyler's baseball prospects. My father would listen and nod and occasionally grunt approval. My mother would serve and smile and bask in the reflected glory of her successful children, successful child, singular. I stopped counting. The comments started small. Still painting? With that particular emphasis that made it clear they meant still wasting your time. Then they got sharper. You know, Em, it's never too late to go back to school for something practical. That was from my mom, said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. My dad preferred silence, but his was the loud kind, the kind that shouted disappointment without words. He'd look at me the way you'd look at a broken appliance you kept meaning to throw away but hadn't gotten around to yet. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for that Thanksgiving. My mother called me 2 weeks before. We're doing Thanksgiving at our place this year. The whole family. I expect you to be there. Expect. Not invite. not hope. Expect. I almost didn't go. I had $73 in my checking account and my studio rent was overdue. The thought of driving to my parents' house in Palo Alto, of walking into that perfectly decorated home with its perfect family and being the obvious failure, made my stomach hurt. But there was something in my mother's voice. Something that sounded almost like warmth. Maybe she missed me. Maybe this would be different. Maybe I was still her daughter, really her daughter, not just a disappointing one. I've learned since then that hope is the cruelest emotion. It keeps you returning to the scene of your own devastation. I wore my best dress, which was 5 years old and a little loose because I'd lost weight I couldn't afford to lose. I brought a bottle of wine I'd gotten on sale, nothing fancy, but decent. I practiced smiling in my rearview mirror in the driveway before I went in. I told myself I'd be okay. I told myself they were still my family. I told myself blood meant something. The house smelled like roasted turkey and cinnamon and expensive candles. Rachel and Brad were already there, of course, looking like they'd stepped out of a Nordstrom catalog. Michael and Jennifer sat on the leather sofa with Tyler, who was now 18 and had grown into his father's thick shoulders and his mother's sharp eyes. My grandmother, my mother's mother, sat in the wing chair by the fireplace, her spine rigid with the same judgment that seemed to be a genetic inheritance in this family. My cousin Dana had flown in from Seattle, another success story, VP of something tech-related that I never fully understood, Emily. My mother's voice was bright, performative. She kissed the air near my cheek. We were wondering if you'd make it. It was 2:47 p.m. Dinner was at 3 o'clock. I was early. Wouldn't miss it, I said, and handed her the wine. She glanced at the label. Something flickered across her face. How thoughtful. She didn't say thank you. She set it on the counter like it was evidence of something. The first 30 minutes were fine. Surface level fine. Rachel talked about a merger she was working on. Brad discussed real estate prices. Michael demonstrated Tyler's new sports stats. I sat on the ottoman, the only seat left, and nodded and made appropriate sounds and felt myself becoming smaller with each passing minute. Then we sat down to eat. The table was beautiful. My mother had always been good at appearances. White tablecloth, gold-rimmed china, a centerpiece of burgundy roses and eucalyptus. Place cards in my mother's elegant handwriting. Mine was at the far end of the table, next to Tyler and across from Dana. The kids' table positioning, though I was 33, my father carved the turkey. My mother served. Rachel complimented the stuffing. Jennifer mentioned how she'd prepared a gluten-free option for Tyler because he was optimizing his athletic performance. Everyone's plates were full. Everyone's glasses were topped off with wine. Everyone except me, I realized. My mother had poured everyone wine except me. I still had water, Mom, I said quietly. Could I get some wine? She looked at me like I'd asked for something absurd. Oh, sweetie. I wasn't sure if you could afford to develop expensive tastes right now. The table went quiet, just for a second. Then Jennifer laughed, this little trill of amusement. And the moment passed. But I felt it. The knife sliding between my ribs, so casual, so precise. I reached for the bottle myself, poured my own glass. No one stopped me. No one said anything. We ate. Conversation flowed around me like a river around a stone. I was there but not there, present but erased. I took small bites of turkey that tasted like dust and tried to remember why I'd thought this was a good idea. Then my mother stood up. She had that look on her face, the one she got when she was about to make a toast or an announcement. She tapped her knife against her wine glass, and everyone quieted. I want to say something, she began, and my stomach dropped before she even continued. There was something in her eyes, something cold and decided. This year has been full of blessings. Michael and Jennifer, watching Tyler grow into such a fine young man. Rachel and Brad, your success continues to amaze us. We're so proud of all of you. She paused, smiled, looked directly at me. It's important to be grateful for what we have, to recognize achievement, to celebrate success. Another pause, longer this time. I have 2 daughters, she said, and her voice changed, got harder. A famous lawyer and an outcast. The room erupted in laughter. Not shocked laughter. Not uncomfortable laughter. Real, genuine amusement. Like she'd told a clever joke at a dinner party and they were all in on it. Rachel laughed, her hand covering her mouth in that delicate way she'd learned at fancy law dinners. Brad chuckled. Jennifer's laugh was the loudest, sharp and delighted. Even my grandmother smiled, this thin, satisfied smile. My father cut another. Michael looked at me and grinned. I dream of becoming a famous athlete, he said, and there was something almost playful in his cruelty. Jennifer didn't miss a beat. Then keep sleeping on the sofa, Emily. More laughter. My father set down his carving knife. His voice, when he spoke, was cold and matter-of-fact. We haven't kicked you out yet, Tyler. My nephew, this kid I used to babysit, this boy I taught to ride a bike when he was 6, leaned back in his chair with this smirk that was pure teenage cruelty. You could earn money by selling your body. He said it like he'd been waiting to say it. Like he'd practiced. My grandmother, who'd held me when I was a baby, who'd told me I was special, made a disgusted sound. This is shameful, she said. But she wasn't talking about Tyler's comment. She was looking at me. Dana raised her wine glass slightly. Are you even crash-worthy? She said it like it was a term review, professional, analytical. My mother, still standing, smiled down at me. She sold all her assets. She said it to the table about me, like I wasn't sitting right there. Everything. Her car, her furniture, everything. My father nodded. We know who is working. I sat there and felt something break inside me that I didn't know could still break. It wasn't dramatic. There was no shattering sound. It was quiet. It was final. It was the sound of a door closing on a room you can never enter again. They kept laughing. They kept eating. Rachel said something about dessert. Jennifer refilled her wine. Tyler scrolled on his phone. My grandmother adjusted her napkin. Dana checked her watch. My parents exchanged a look, satisfied, like they'd finally said what needed to be said. I stood up. My legs were shaking, but they held me. Excuse me, I said. My voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. I need to use the restroom. No one looked at me. My mother waved her hand vaguely toward the hallway. I walked to the bathroom like a person underwater, closed the door, locked it, looked at myself in the mirror. My face was pale. My eyes were dry. I thought I should cry, but nothing came. Shock, probably. Or maybe I'd just run out of tears years ago. I splashed water on my face, dried it with the hand towel that had my parents' monogram on it, looked at myself again, and something shifted. Some survival instinct, some deep animal part of my brain that had kept me alive through lean months and rejection letters and gallery shows where nobody came. Some part of me that refused to die. Woke up. I wasn't going to cry in this bathroom. I wasn't going to break down. I wasn't going to give them that satisfaction. I was going to leave, and I was never, ever coming back. I walked out of the bathroom, back to the dining room. They were eating pumpkin pie now, laughing about something Brad had said. I picked up my purse from where I'd left it by the door. Emily. My mother's voice, surprised. Where are you going? We haven't had coffee yet. I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who'd given birth to me, raised me, who I'd spent 33 years trying to make proud. This stranger. I'm leaving, I said. But we're not done, I am. My voice was steady and cold and sure. I'm done. I walked out, got in my car, drove back to Oakland, and I didn't cry the whole way. The thing about burning bridges is that the light from the fire shows you the path forward. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my studio apartment with its bare walls and second-hand furniture, and I made a list. Not of what I'd lost, of what I had left. And what I had left, I realized, was nothing to lose. Nothing to lose is the most dangerous thing a person can have. I sold my remaining paintings the next morning. Not to galleries, to a liquidation site online. Got $300 total for 8 years of work. It hurt, but hurt was just information now. I was past feeling and into calculating. I sold my art supplies, my easels, my canvases, everything. $700 more. I looked at the $1,000 in my account and I asked myself the question I should have asked years ago. What did I actually want? Not what did my family want for me. Not what I'd convinced myself I wanted because it was noble or artistic or pure. What did I, Emily Carter, actually want from this one life I had? And the answer came back clear. I wanted to never feel like I felt at that dinner table ever again. I wanted power. I wanted security. I wanted to be undeniable. I wanted revenge. But not the hot kind. The cold kind. The kind that takes years. The kind that succeeds. I had a bachelor's degree in art history. Useless, everyone had said. But I'd minored in business, almost by accident, because I'd thought maybe I'd run a gallery someday. I'd been good at it. Really good. I'd just never pursued it because it wasn't pure enough. Wasn't art enough. Purity had gotten me humiliated at Thanksgiving dinner. Maybe it was time to try something else. I applied to every entry-level business job in the Bay Area. Marketing assistant, project coordinator, executive assistant. Things I was overqualified for on paper but underqualified for in experience. I applied to 63 jobs in 1 week. I got to interviews. Then 3. Then 5. And I got one offer. Marketing coordinator at a tech startup in San Francisco. $38,000 a year. It was less than I needed but more than I had. The company was called Streamline. They made project management software. It was boring. It was practical. It was perfect. I said yes before they finished making the offer. I started the Monday after Thanksgiving. I didn't tell my family. I didn't call. I didn't text. I blocked my mother's number. Then my father's. Then Rachel's. Then all of them. Every single one. Radio silence. The first few months were brutal. I worked 10-hour days learning everything I could. I watched how the successful people moved, talked, dressed, networked. I studied them like I used to study paintings, looking for the brushstrokes, the technique, the choices that made them work. I made myself useful, indispensable. When someone needed a presentation done, I did it. When someone needed research, I found it. When someone needed a problem solved, I solved it. I worked weekends. I worked late. I worked through lunch. I became the person they couldn't imagine losing. 6 months in, I got promoted to marketing manager. $55,000 a year. I moved out of Oakland. Got a small apartment in the Mission. Nothing fancy, but mine. Clean, safe. A place where every single object was there because I chose it. Not because it was the only thing I could afford. I didn't paint. I didn't even think about painting. That part of me was dead, and I didn't mourn it. You don't mourn the parts of yourself that got you hurt. 1 year in, I was senior marketing manager. $78,000 a year. I started taking online courses, MBA coursework, marketing analytics, business strategy. I did them at night, every night, turning my tiny apartment into a classroom for one. I was hungry in a way I'd never been hungry for art. This hunger had teeth. The startup grew. We got venture funding, Series A, then Series B. I got stock options. I didn't fully understand them at first, but I learned. I learned everything. 2 years in, I was director of marketing. $110,000 a year. Plus options. I started going to industry events, networking mixers, conferences. I learned to work a room. I learned to make people remember me. I learned that success is 50% competence and 50% making sure people know about your competence. I got good at both. I bought a car. Nothing fancy. A reliable Honda. But it was mine. Paid in cash. And I cried the first time I sat in the driver's seat because I remembered selling my last car. Piece by piece, while my family watched and said nothing. I didn't date. I didn't make close friends. I worked. That was the deal I'd made with myself. Everything else was distraction. I could make friends when I was safe. I could fall in love when I was secure. Right now, I had to build the fortress. 3 years in, Streamline got acquired. Big tech company, big acquisition. My stock options vested. I made $347,000 overnight. I sat in my apartment and looked at my bank account, and I thought about that Thanksgiving dinner. About my mother's face when she called me an outcast. About the laughter. About Tyler's comment. About sitting at the end of that table feeling like nothing. I was 36 years old. I had more money than I'd ever imagined. And I felt nothing. Just this cold, clear focus. I took 6 weeks off. First vacation I'd taken in 3 years. But I didn't go to a beach. I didn't relax. I interviewed at 5 companies. I had offers from 3. I chose the one with the most potential, the most room to grow, the most power to take. I became VP of marketing at a company called Apex Solutions. They made enterprise software. Boring, profitable, stable. My starting salary was $220,000 a year, plus bonus, plus stock, plus benefits that included things like mental health support, which would have made me laugh if I still knew how. I bought a condo in Soma. High floor, city views, hardwood floors, floor-to-ceiling windows that let in so much light I had to buy curtains. I furnished it carefully, slowly, with things that were beautiful in mind and permanent. I still didn't contact my family. 4 years of silence. Sometimes I wondered if they noticed. Probably not. I decided, you don't miss what you never valued. But I kept tabs. Social media, even though I stayed off it myself. Rachel made partner. Michael's son Tyler got a baseball scholarship to a state school. My parents retired to a smaller house in San Jose. My grandmother died. I found out 3 months later through a mutual acquaintance. They hadn't told me, hadn't tried to reach me. I was already gone to them. Erased. The daughter who didn't count. Fine, I thought. Let me be gone. Let me be the one who disappeared. They'd see me again when I was ready, and on my terms. 4.5 years after that Thanksgiving, I was promoted again. Chief Marketing Officer. $380,000 a year. I was 37. I had stock worth over $1 million on paper. I had an assistant. I had a team of 40 people who respected me, who listened when I talked, who treated my ideas like they mattered. I looked successful. I wore designer clothes now, the same brands Rachel used to wear. I got my hair done at expensive salons. I had a financial advisor. I contributed to a $401,000. I owned property. On paper, I had become everything my family said they valued. But I still felt nothing. This wasn't joy. This was justice. Cold, mathematical, precise. And then, 5 years and 2 weeks after that Thanksgiving dinner, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something made me. Hello? Emily? The voice was older, uncertain. My mother's voice. I hadn't heard it in 5 years. It felt like a lifetime ago. Like a past life. Yes? Oh, honey. We've been trying to reach you. Your number was disconnected and I blocked you, I said. Matter of fact. All of you. Silence. Then, we need to talk to you. It's about your father. He's not well. Cancer. Stage 4. The doctors say they say we should gather the family. I stood in my corner office, looking out at the San Francisco skyline, at the city I'd conquered through sheer force of will and spite. And I felt that old wound trying to open. The daughter part of me, the one who'd sat at that table and taken their cruelty because they were family. But that daughter was dead. She died the day I walked out of that house. This was someone else. Someone harder. Someone who'd built herself from nothing while they laughed. Why should I come? I asked Emily. He's your father, is he? Because 5 years ago, at Thanksgiving, my father told me we know who is working while you called me an outcast and the whole family laughed. Was he my father then? I heard her breath catch. That was we were just what? Just being honest? Just being funny? Just putting me in my place? You're being dramatic. It wasn't that bad. And there it was. The refusal to acknowledge. The gaslighting. The same pattern that had been my whole childhood. Your feelings are wrong. Your memory is wrong. Your pain is imagined. Here's what's going to happen, I said. And my voice was steady, cold. The voice I used in boardrooms when I was negotiating and knew I had all the power. I'm going to come to this family gathering. I'm going to see Dad. But you need to know something first. I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. I'm not coming back to be your punching bag. I'm coming back to show you exactly who I became when you threw me away. Emily, text me the details. I hung up. The gathering was at my parents' house in San Jose. Same house. Different location. Smaller. A downsize. I pulled up in my car, a new one now. An Audi. Silver. Beautiful, and I sat in the driveway for 5 minutes, breathing. I was wearing a black suit. Tom Ford. It cost more than I used to make in 6 months. My hair was professionally styled. My jewelry was simple, expensive, real. I looked like money. I looked like power. I looked like success. I looked like everything they said I'd never be. I walked to the door, knocked. My mother answered. She looked older, smaller. There were lines around her eyes I didn't remember. Gray in her hair she hadn't fully covered. She looked at me and something crossed her face. Surprise? Recognition? Fear? Emily, she said, you look different? I finished. Yes. I walked in. The house was smaller than the Palo Alto one. Less grand. More worn. The furniture looked tired. This wasn't the house of people celebrating success. This was the house of people treading water. They were all there. Rachel and Brad in the living room. Michael and Jennifer in the kitchen. Tyler, now 23, on his phone on the couch. My father in a hospital bed set up in what used to be the dining room, thin, gray, hooked to machines that beeped softly. Everyone turned when I walked in. And I watched their faces change. Watched the recognition, the confusion, the slow understanding that something fundamental had shifted. Rachel stood up. Oh my God. You look successful, I said. Yeah, funny how that works. Brad extended his hand like we were meeting at a networking event. Professional. Safe. I shook it once and dropped it. Michael came out of the kitchen. Hey sis. Been a while. 5 years, I said. To be exact, Jennifer followed him, and her eyes went straight to my suit, my shoes, my bag. I watched her calculating. You look great, she said, but her voice had an edge. Tyler glanced up from his phone. His eyes widened slightly. He didn't say anything. Good. He'd learned. My mother fluttered around me. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee? We have wine. No, I said. I'm not staying long. I walked to my father's bedside. He looked at me. Really looked. And I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Uncertainty. Emily, he said. His voice was weak, thready. You came. I did. You look good. I am good. Silence. The machines beeped. The family gathered around, awkward and sure. My mother started crying. Soft, delicate tears. We've missed you so much. 5 years without hearing from you. We were so worried. No, you weren't, I said. I wasn't cruel about it. Just factual. You didn't worry. You moved on. I was already gone to you that Thanksgiving. You just made it official. That's not fair, Rachel said. We're family. I turned to her. My successful sister. My mother's golden child. Are we? Because I don't remember family laughing when mom called me an outcast. I don't remember family defending me when a teenager suggested I prostitute myself. I don't remember family doing anything except making it clear I was the punchline to a joke I didn't agree to be part of. You're being sensitive, Jennifer said. It was just teasing, was it? Tell me, Jennifer, when someone calls you worthless at a family dinner and everyone laughs, is that teasing? Or is that cruelty? She pressed her lips together, didn't answer. Tyler spoke up. I was just a kid. You were 18, I said. Old enough to know better. Old enough to be held accountable. My father coughed. It was wet, painful. We all waited. When he could speak, he looked at me. I'm dying, Emily. Can't we just be family right now? And there it was. The plea. The demand for forgiveness without apology. The expectation that blood erased everything. I pulled up a chair, sat down next to his bed, looked him in the eyes. I'll tell you a story, Dad. 5 years ago, I left this house with $73 in my bank account and no idea how I was going to make rent. I was at the bottom, rock bottom, the place you all made very clear I deserved to be in. And I could have stayed there. I could have broken. I could have given up. I paused, made sure everyone was listening. But I didn't. I got a job, entry level. I worked harder than I've ever worked at anything in my life. I learned, I grew, I climbed, and now I'm the chief marketing officer of a company you've probably heard of. I make more in a year than this house is worth. I have stock options worth over $1 million. I own property in San Francisco. I have a team, a title, a career that I built from nothing while none of you bothered to check if I was even alive. Rachel's face had gone pale. Michael looked at the floor. My mother's tears had stopped. So yes, Dad. I'll be here. I'll be family. But I need you to understand something. I didn't come back because I needed you. I came back because I wanted you to see what you threw away. I wanted you to see who I became without you. And I wanted you to know that every single thing you said about me was wrong. The room was silent except for the beeping machines. My father looked at me for a long time. Then he did something I'd never seen him do. He cried. Real tears. Broken tears. I'm sorry, he whispered. God, Emily. I'm so sorry. My mother collapsed into a chair. We were terrible to you. We were so terrible. Rachel started crying. Then Michael. Even Jennifer looked shaken. But I felt nothing. No triumph. No satisfaction. Just empty. This moment I'd imagined for 5 years, the moment of vindication, felt hollow. They were sorry because I was successful now. They were sorry because I'd proven them wrong. They weren't sorry for what they'd done. They were sorry they'd miscalculated. I stood up. I forgive you, I said. And I meant it. Not because they deserved it. Because I deserved to be free of them. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean we go back to how things were. You can't unring that bell. But we're family. My mother said desperately. No, I said gently. We're related. Family is something different. Family shows up. Family protects. Family doesn't laugh when you're being humiliated. We're related by blood, and I'll be here for Dad while he needs me. But after that, I don't think we have anything else to say to each other. I stayed for 2 more hours, sat with my father, held his hand while he cried and apologized and told me he was proud of me in a voice that shook with regret. My mother hovered, trying to rebuild bridges I had no interest in crossing. Rachel attempted small talk about work until she realized we were technically competitors now and fell silent. Michael and Jennifer left early. Tyler stayed on his phone. When I left, my mother walked me to the door. Will we see you again? Before the end? I'll come back, I said. For him. Not for you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I understand, she said. And I think, finally, she did. I drove back to San Francisco as the sun set over the bay. The same drive I'd made 5 years ago. But everything was different. I was different. The city lights came on like stars, and I thought about the girl who'd left that Thanksgiving dinner with nothing but hurt and determination. About the woman I'd become. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel healed. But I felt free. Free of the need for their approval. Free of the hope that they would change. Free of the weight of being the daughter they didn't want. My father died 3 weeks later. I was there. I paid for the funeral. The whole thing, despite Rachel's protests. It was a beautiful service. Dignified. Expensive. Everyone commented on how generous I was. At the reception afterward, my mother pulled me aside. You didn't have to do all this. I know, I said. I wanted to. Why? Because he was still my father. Even after everything. That was my choice to make, not yours. She nodded, looked at me with something like wonder. You're remarkable, Emily. You always were. I just couldn't see it. I know, I said. That was your loss, not mine. 6 months later, I got a call from my mother. She was careful, tentative. I was wondering if you'd like to have coffee sometime. Just us, just to talk. I thought about it for a long time. Thought about that Thanksgiving dinner. Thought about the 5 years of silence. Thought about the woman I'd become, and the girl I'd been, and the chasm between them. Maybe, I said, someday, but not yet. I understand, she said. I'll wait, and maybe she will. Maybe someday I'll be ready to build something new with her. Something that's not based on her standards or my rebellion against them. Something clean and honest and real, or maybe I won't. Maybe this is as close as we get. And that's okay too. Because here's what I learned in those 5 years of silence and work and transformation. You don't owe anyone your pain. You don't owe anyone your forgiveness. You don't owe anyone a relationship just because they share your DNA. Family is a verb, not a noun. It's something you do, not something you are. And sometimes the greatest act of love is walking away from people who will never see you clearly. Sometimes the greatest act of strength is building a life so full and bright that their absence doesn't matter anymore. I'm 38 now. I sit in my office with its view of the city and I think about that girl who used to paint in a studio apartment, who believed so hard in beauty and art and truth. She was naive. She was foolish. But she was also brave and kind, and she deserved better than what they gave her. I honor her by living well, by building something that can't be taken away, by becoming undeniable. And on Thanksgiving, I have dinner with my team. The 40 people who chose to work with me, who respect me, who show up. We eat catered food and drink good wine and laugh without cruelty. We're not related by blood, but we're family in the way that matters. That's my story. The one about how I died at a Thanksgiving table and was reborn in the ashes of my family's cruelty. The one about how sometimes the people who are supposed to love you are the ones who hurt you the worst. The one about how you can survive that hurt and build something beautiful from the rubble. If you're listening to this and you've ever felt small at a family gathering, ever felt like the disappointment, ever felt like you didn't measure up to some invisible standard, I want you to know something. You're not crazy. Your pain is real, and you don't have to carry it forever. You can walk away. You can build something new. You can become the person you were always meant to be, not the person they needed you to be to make them feel good about themselves. It won't be easy. God, it won't be easy. There will be nights when you question everything, when you wonder if you made the right choice, when the loneliness feels like it might swallow you whole, when you see other families laughing together and you wonder if you threw away something precious. But then you'll remember what it felt like to be the punchline, to be the one everyone agreed it was okay to hurt. And you'll know you made the right choice, because you deserve better. You deserve people who celebrate you, not tolerate you. You deserve people who lift you up instead of using you as a step stool. You deserve family that acts like family, not an audience for your humiliation. 3 years after my father's funeral, my mother and I did have that coffee. It was awkward. She cried a lot. She apologized more. She told me she'd been going to therapy, working through her own issues, trying to understand why she'd treated me the way she had. Something about her own mother, her own sense of inadequacy, her need to have successful children to prove she was a good mother. I listened. I didn't absolve her, but I didn't hate her either. Hurt people hurt people. That doesn't make it okay, but it makes it understandable. We have coffee now sometimes. Once every few months. We talk about safe things. The weather, her book club, my work in vague terms. We don't talk about that Thanksgiving. We don't talk about the 5 years of silence. Those things live between us like ghosts, acknowledged but not discussed. Rachel reached out too. Sent a long email about how she'd been complicit, how she was ashamed, how she wanted to rebuild our relationship. We have lunch occasionally. It's cordial, professional almost, like colleagues who used to be friends and are trying to remember how. Maybe someday it'll be more. Maybe not. Michael sends Christmas cards. I send them back. We're Facebook friends. We like each other's posts. It's shallow, but it's something. More than we had. Tyler, surprisingly, called me last year. He's 25 now, working as a physical therapist, engaged to a woman who seems kind in her Instagram photos. He apologized for what he said that Thanksgiving. Really apologized. Not the defensive kind where they're really mad you're still hurt. He said he thinks about it sometimes, about how cruel he was, and it makes him sick. He asked if I could forgive him. I told him I already had, that I'd forgiven all of them, not because they earned it, but because I needed to stop carrying their debts. He cried. We talked for 2 hours. Now we text sometimes. Memes, random thoughts, small connections. It's nice. But here's the thing, and I need you to hear this if you're in the middle of your own family nightmare. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. Forgiveness doesn't mean trust. Forgiveness doesn't mean going back to how things were. Forgiveness just means you're not letting their poison live in your bloodstream anymore. It means you're choosing peace over resentment. It means you're free. I'm 40 now. 3 years since I wrote the first version of this story in my head. 2 years since I started actually writing it down. I'm still the CMO, still successful, still building, but something's changed. Something's softened. I started painting again. Not for money, not for galleries, not for anyone but me. I have a studio in my condo, the second bedroom I used to use for storage. I paint on weekends. Abstract stuff mostly. Color and light and texture. It feels like breathing again. Like finding a part of myself I thought was dead but was really just sleeping. I'm dating someone. His name is Marcus. He's a teacher, middle school math, and he has the kindest eyes I've ever seen. He knows my story, all of it. The Thanksgiving, the silence, the climbing, the revenge, the slow thaw. He held me while I told him and he said, "You're the strongest person I've ever met." I cried. I don't cry often anymore, but I cried then. Because he didn't say I was successful or impressive or intimidating. He said I was strong. And he saw the cost of that strength. He saw the girl I used to be and the woman I became, and he loved both of them. We're talking about marriage, about kids, about building something together. And I'm terrified. Terrified of letting someone in that deep. Terrified of family, even chosen family, even safe family. Terrified that I'm so good at being alone now that I don't know how to be together. But I'm also hopeful. And hope, it turns out, isn't the cruelest emotion after all. Hope is what keeps you alive. Hope is what makes you try again. Hope is what lets you believe that maybe, just maybe, you can have the love you always deserved. My company is going public next year. My stock will be worth approximately $8 million if the IPO goes the way our bankers think it will. $8 million. It's an absurd number. A meaningless number. Money I never dreamed of when I was eating rice for the third meal in a row and wondering how to make $73 last until I got paid. But you know what? The money isn't the victory. The title isn't the victory. The condo and the car and the designer clothes aren't the victory. The victory is this. I like who I am now. I respect myself. I trust myself. I know that no matter what happens, market crash, layoff, disaster, I'll figure it out. Because I've already survived the worst thing. I've already walked through the fire. Everything else is just details. The victory is that when I look in the mirror, I see someone who is enough. Not because of what I've accomplished. Not because of what I own. But because I chose myself when no one else would. Because I bet on myself when everyone else was betting against me. Because I built a life that's mine. That's true. That's real. That's the revenge. Not the money. Not the success. Not the moment when they realized they were wrong about me. The revenge is being happy. The revenge is being whole. The revenge is living well. If you're out there, sitting at your own version of that Thanksgiving table, feeling small and worthless and wrong, please hear me. You are not those things. You are not what they say you are. You are not defined by their limitations or their fears or their need to put someone down to feel better about themselves. You are capable of more than you know. You are stronger than you think. You can survive this. You can walk away. You can build something beautiful. You can become someone you're proud of. It won't happen overnight. It took me 5 years to get to the point where I could face them. It took me 7 to get to the point where I could forgive them. It took me 10 to get to the point where I could paint again, where I could let someone love me, where I could believe that maybe I deserved good things. But it happened. Slowly, painfully, imperfectly. But it happened. And it can happen for you too. So this is me, Emily Carter, formerly known as the Outcast. The disappointment, the punchline telling you, you're worth fighting for. Your dreams are valid. Your pain is real. Your choices matter. And you can create a life that is so full and bright and true that the people who couldn't see your value become background noise in the symphony of your becoming. Walk away if you need to. Stay if you can. But choose yourself. Always, always choose yourself. Because in the end, the only person who has to live your life is you. The only person who has to sleep in your bed at night and look at your face in the mirror and live with your choices is you. So make them good ones. Make them brave ones. Make them yours. That's my story. That's my truth. That's what I learned when my mother called me an outcast at Thanksgiving dinner, and I decided that maybe being cast out was the best thing that ever happened to me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for witnessing this story. And if you're out there fighting your own battles, building your own life, climbing your own mountains, I see you. I honor you. I believe in you. Keep going. It gets better. Not easier, necessarily, but better, truer, more yours. That's all any of us can ask for. Now go build your empire. Go live your life. Go be the person your family didn't believe you could be. Go be free. You've got this. I promise. And maybe, just maybe, I'll see you at the top. This is Emily Carter, signing off. From San Francisco with love. From the ashes with hope. From the end of one story to the beginning of another. Keep fighting. Keep believing. Keep becoming. The best revenge is a life well lived. Go live yours. Epilogue. 5 years later, I'm writing this final part on Thanksgiving morning. The irony isn't lost on me. It's been 15 years since that Thanksgiving. 15 years since my mother stood at the head of the table and called me an outcast. 15 years since I walked out of that house and into the rest of my life. Today, Marcus and I are hosting Thanksgiving at our house. Not the condo anymore. We bought a Victorian in Pacific Heights 2 years ago. It has a garden, a real studio for my paintings, a room we're slowly converting into a nursery because yes, at 45, I'm pregnant. Life has a sense of humor. My mother is coming today. So is Rachel, with her 2 kids. She's divorced from Brad now. Turns out being married to someone with the personality of unsalted crackers gets old. Michael and Jennifer are bringing Tyler and his wife Sarah. They have a baby girl, 6 months old. Her name is Emily. When Tyler called to ask if they could name her after me, I cried for an hour. You showed me what strength looks like, he said. What it means to rebuild yourself. I want my daughter to have that kind of courage. My mother and I have rebuilt something. It's not what we had before that was broken, built on her needs and my compliance. This is different, honest, smaller maybe, but real. She babysits sometimes. She knows about the baby. She cried when we told her and said, "You're going to be the most amazing mother because you know exactly what not to do." It was the most honest thing she's ever said to me. Last week, she brought over a box. Old photographs. Me as a child, painting at a little easel. Me in high school, covered in clay from a pottery class. Me at my college graduation, holding my art history degree, smiling so bright it hurt to look at. I kept these, she said quietly. Even during the silent years, I'd look at them sometimes and wonder where that little girl went. Wonder where I went wrong. She touched one photo, me at maybe 7, paintbrush in hand, tongue stuck out in concentration. She was always there, the artist, the dreamer. I just couldn't see it because I was too busy trying to make you into something you weren't. Why? I asked. Why did it matter so much what I became? She was quiet for a long time. Because I never became anything, she finally said. I was just a wife, just a mother, and I loved you all so much, but I didn't know who I was outside of you. So I needed you to be impressive, to be successful, to prove that I'd done something that mattered. And when you chose art, chose something impractical and uncertain, it felt like you were rejecting everything I'd sacrificed for you. But I wasn't rejecting you, I said. I was trying to find myself. I know that now. I was 58 years old before I figured out that your success wasn't my identity, that I needed to build my own. She smiled, sad but real. Better late than never, I suppose. She volunteers at an art museum now, gives tours. She's taking painting classes. She's terrible at it, she says, but she loves it. She's building her own life, finally. At 73, she's becoming herself. It's never too late. Rachel and I had a harder time. For years, our relationship was polite, surface level. We'd have lunch and talk about safe things and never, ever mention that Thanksgiving or the years after or the fact that she sat there and laughed while our mother destroyed me. Then, about 3 years ago, she showed up at my office unannounced. Drunk. Not falling down drunk, but the kind of drunk where truth comes out whether you want it to or not. I'm so tired, she said, collapsing into the chair across from my desk. I'm so tired of being the perfect one, of having all the right answers, of being the one everyone's proud of. She looked at me with tears streaming down her face. Do you know what it's like to be the favorite? To know that your value is conditional on never failing? Never being less than perfect? No, I said honestly. I don't. It's a prison, a golden cage. You got thrown out, but I've been locked in this whole time, performing, achieving, being what they needed me to be. And I'm so empty. We talked for 4 hours that night. Really talked. Maybe for the first time in our lives. She told me about the pressure, the expectations, the way she'd tied her worth to her accomplishments and her accomplishments to their approval. She told me how she'd envied me when I walked out that Thanksgiving, how she'd wished she had the courage to choose herself too. But you laughed, I said. When Mom called me an outcast, you laughed. I know. She covered her face with her hands. God, Emily, I know. And I've hated myself for it every day since. I laughed because I was relieved. Relieved it was you and not me. Relieved someone else was the target for once. It was cowardly and cruel, and I have no excuse. Why are you telling me this now? Because I just finalized my divorce. Because I'm 47 years old and I just realized I don't know who I am without the partnership, the title, the perfect image. Because I watched you burn everything down and build something real from the ashes, and I want that. I want to be real. She looked at me. I want my sister back. The real one. It's been slow. Trust, once broken, doesn't heal overnight. But we're building something. Sister dinners once a month. Real conversations. She tells me about her kids, her struggles, her attempts to figure out who Rachel is when she's not Rachel the successful lawyer. I tell her about my work, my marriage, my art, my fears about becoming a mother. Last month, she came to my studio, looked at my paintings for a long time. Then she said, "You were always the brave one. I just couldn't see it because I was too busy being afraid." And I realized something. We were both victims of that family system. In different ways, but victims nonetheless. She was trapped by being the golden child. I was cast out for not measuring up. Neither of us was free. But we're free now, or getting there. Learning what it means to be sisters by choice, not obligation. As for my father, he died knowing I'd forgiven him. And that's something. He never got to meet Marcus. Never got to know about the baby. But in those last weeks of his life, we had honest conversations. He told me about his own father, cold and demanding, about how he'd promised himself he'd be different and then realized too late that he'd become the same thing, about regret and time and how fast it all goes. "You turned out better than all of us," he said near the end. "You know why? Because you didn't need us. You became yourself in spite of us. That takes guts." "I needed you," I said. "I just needed you to love me as I was, not as who you wanted me to be." "I know," he whispered. "I know that now. It wasn't enough. But it was something. So today, Thanksgiving, 15 years later, I'm cooking a turkey. I'm setting a table. I'm opening my home to the people who once made me feel like I had no home. And it's okay. It's actually okay. Because here's what I learned. Healing isn't linear. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. Family is complicated and messy and sometimes broken beyond complete repair. But sometimes, if everyone's willing to do the work, to be honest, to acknowledge the harm and try to be better, sometimes you can build something new from the rubble. It won't ever be what it was. But maybe what it was wasn't worth saving anyway. My doorbell rings. First guests arriving. I check my reflection in the hallway mirror. Gray in my hair now. Laugh lines around my eyes. A little rounder because of the pregnancy. I'm wearing jeans and a soft sweater, bare feet because this is my house and I can. My wedding ring catches the light. I look happy. I look home. Marcus comes up behind me, wraps his arms around my waist, rests his hand on my growing belly. "You ready?" he asks. "Yeah," I say, and I mean it. I'm ready. I open the door to my mother, holding a pie and looking nervous. Behind her, Rachel, helping her kids out of the car. Behind them, Michael's SUV pulling up. "Emily," my mother says, and her voice shakes a little. "Thank you for having us. Come in, Mom," I say, and I step aside to let them into my home, my life, my carefully built sanctuary, because this is the final chapter of the revenge story. Not bitterness, not isolation, not proving them wrong forever. The final chapter is grace, is choosing connection on your terms, is allowing people to earn their way back into your life if they're willing to do the work, is understanding that people can change, grow, become better, is recognizing that you can offer love without offering unlimited access to hurt you. The final chapter is being secure, enough in yourself that you can extend kindness without it costing you your peace. We gather around the table. My table, in my house, on my terms. Marcus says grace. It's simple and true. We go around and say what we're thankful for. When it's my turn, I look around at these faces. These complicated, flawed human faces. My imperfect family. I'm thankful for second chances, I say. For the courage to walk away when I needed to. And for the wisdom to come back when I was ready. I'm thankful for the life I built. For the person I became. And I'm thankful that healing is possible. Even when it seems impossible. My mother is crying. Rachel squeezes my hand. Tyler lifts his glass in a small salute. Marcus kisses my temple. And I realize I won. Not the way I thought I would. Not through their acknowledgement or apology or even their pride in me. I won because I'm happy. Because I'm whole. Because I'm free. The best revenge isn't living well despite them. It's living well, period. Full stop. With or without them. On your terms. In your truth. With your people. In your peace. That's the ending. That's the victory. That's the revenge. And it's sweeter than anything I could have imagined 15 years ago when I walked out into the California sunset with a broken heart and $73. So here's to you. Wherever you are in your journey. Here's to walking away. Here's to building something beautiful. Here's to the long road home to yourself. Here's to second chances and hard-won wisdom and imperfect healing. Here's to choosing yourself. Always and forever. Here's to revenge that looks like peace. Happy Thanksgiving. Love. Amelia. Final note. What I wish I'd known. It's late now. Everyone's gone home. The dishes are done. Marcus is asleep upstairs. I'm sitting in my studio with a cup of tea, looking at a half-finished painting, and I keep thinking about that girl I used to be. The one who sat at that Thanksgiving table 15 years ago and felt like the world was ending. If I could go back and whisper something to her, here's what I'd say. This pain you're feeling, it's not the end of your story. It's the beginning. This moment where you feel smallest will become the moment you started becoming largest. Not in ego, not in arrogance, but in capacity, in strength, in knowing who you are when everything else is stripped away. You're going to spend the next 5 years becoming someone you don't recognize. Someone harder, colder, more calculating. And that's okay. That's survival. That's what it takes to climb out of the hole they dug for you. Don't feel guilty about it. Don't apologize for it. You'll need that armor to get where you're going. But here's what I wish I'd known. That armor isn't who you are. It's just what you're wearing. And someday, when you're safe enough, strong enough, secure enough, you'll be able to take it off. You'll be able to paint again, to love again, to hope again, to be soft without being weak. The art you're mourning right now, it's not dead. It's just sleeping. You'll find it again. Not the same way. You're not the same person, but better, deeper, truer. You'll paint with the wisdom of someone who's been broken and rebuilt themselves. And those paintings will mean something because you'll mean something to yourself. Finally, you're going to make so much money it'll feel absurd. And you know what? It won't fix anything. The money, the title, the success, none of it will heal the wound they opened tonight. Only you can do that. Only time and distance and work and therapy and choosing yourself over and over again will do that. But the money will give you options. It'll give you freedom. It'll give you the ability to say no, to set boundaries, to build the life you want instead of accepting the life they offered. And that matters. Don't let anyone tell you money doesn't matter. It does. Not because it makes you happy, but because it makes you free. You're going to lose years to anger, to resentment, to the cold satisfaction of proving them wrong. And that's okay too. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to want revenge. You're allowed to savor the moment when they realize they underestimated you. You're human. You're hurt. Anger is just love with nowhere to go. But eventually, you'll realize that carrying that anger is like drinking poison and expecting them to die. You'll realize that the best revenge isn't making them feel bad. It's not needing them to feel anything at all. It's being so genuinely happy that their opinion becomes irrelevant. You're going to meet someone who sees you, really sees you. Not the successful you, not the broken you, just you, all of it. The messy, complicated, scarred, beautiful you. And you're going to be terrified. Because being seen means being vulnerable. And you've spent years building walls so high that nobody could ever hurt you again. Let him in anyway. Take the risk. I promise you. It's worth it. You're going to have a baby. I know right now you can't imagine that. Right now you can barely imagine tomorrow. But someday, you'll be standing in a nursery, painting stars on the ceiling, and you'll realize you're breaking the cycle. You're creating a childhood for this little person that looks nothing like yours. You're giving them safety and acceptance and unconditional love. You're being the parent you needed. And in doing that, you'll finally heal that little girl inside you who just wanted to be loved for who she was. Your mom is going to apologize. So is Rachel. So are others. And it's going to feel empty at first. Like too little too late. And maybe it is. Maybe some things can't be unsaid. Maybe some hurt goes too deep. But people can change. People can grow. People can realize they were wrong and try to do better. You don't have to let them all the way back in. You don't have to pretend it never happened. You don't have to make it easy for them. But if they're willing to do the real work, if they're willing to sit in the discomfort of what they did and own it, you might find that there's something worth saving. Not what you had before. Something different. Something honest. You get to decide. That's the power you're going to earn. The power to choose who gets access to you, who earns space in your life, who deserves your time and energy and love, and the power to say no, even to family, when the answer needs to be no. The people you work with are going to become family. Your team, your colleagues, the ones who choose you every day, who show up, who see your value. Don't dismiss that as less real than blood family. Chosen family is just as legitimate. Sometimes more so. Love is a verb, remember? It's what you do, not what you are. You're going to have days where you miss the girl you used to be. The dreamer, the idealist, the one who believed that passion was enough. And that's okay. Grieve her, honor her, thank her for trying so hard. But don't regret becoming who you're going to become. You need both versions. The dreamer gives you hope. The fighter gives you strength. Together, they make you whole. On your 40th birthday, you're going to stand on the deck of your house and look out at the city lights and realize you're not angry anymore. You're not sad. You're not bitter. You're just free. And that freedom will taste sweeter than any revenge you could have imagined. This Thanksgiving dinner tonight, this moment that feels like the end of everything, it's going to become the story you tell about beginnings, about transformation, about the death required for rebirth. About how sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the catalyst for the best thing you ever do. Years from now, you'll write this all down. You'll tell this story, and people will reach out, hundreds of them, thousands maybe, and they'll say, me too. They'll say, I thought I was the only one. They'll say, thank you for making me feel less alone, and you'll realize that your pain had a purpose, that your story matters. That even the darkest moments can become light for someone else stumbling in their own darkness. So hold on. Just hold on. Walk out that door. Get in your car. Drive away. And don't look back until you're ready. Until you're strong. Until you're yourself. Because Emily, you're going to be okay. More than okay. You're going to be extraordinary. Not because of what you achieve. Not because of what you acquire. Not because of who you become in the eyes of others. But because you're going to know yourself, love yourself, choose yourself. And that's the only achievement that really matters. The girl sitting at that table tonight thinks she's nothing. She's wrong. She's everything. She just can't see it yet because they've spent her whole life teaching her to look at herself through their eyes instead of her own. But she's going to learn. God, is she going to learn? So this is for her, for that girl, for everyone who's ever felt like the outcast, the disappointment, the one who doesn't measure up. You're not too much. You're not too little. You're not too anything. You're exactly who you're supposed to be. And the people who can't see that, that's their limitation, not yours. That's their poverty, not yours. That's their loss, not yours. Walk away. Build your empire. Become yourself. And when you're ready, if you're ready, you can decide what reconciliation looks like. On your terms. In your time. By your rules. But never, ever let anyone make you feel small again. You're not small. You never were. You were just surrounded by people who needed you to be small so they could feel big. Those days are over. Your real life, it starts the moment you walk out that door. And it's going to be beautiful. I promise. with all my love. From the future you never imagined but always deserved. Emily S. To everyone reading or listening to this story, I see you. Whether you're at your own Thanksgiving table right now feeling like you don't belong, or you walked away years ago and you're still wondering if you did the right thing, or you're somewhere in between trying to figure out how to move forward, I see you. Your story matters. Your pain is valid. Your choices are yours to make. And you deserve a life that feels like home, wherever and with whomever that may be. Drop your city in the comments. Share your story if you feel called to. Let's build a community of people who chose themselves, who walked away from what hurt them, who rebuilt from nothing, who know that family isn't always about blood. We're all in this together. All of us trying to heal, to grow, to become, to be free. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for surviving. Keep going. Your Thanksgiving table, the real one, the one where you're celebrated and loved and seen, is waiting for you. You just might have to build it yourself. And that's okay. You're strong enough. I promise. Emily Carter, San Francisco, California. From my heart to yours.